Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's lecture, we are going to do another coding exercises for arrays. We are going to write a program that takes 5 numbers as input and store them in an array. And then it calculates their average. To do that, first we initialize an array with the size 5. It is named numbers and its type is double. And in order to have an average, we first need to know their sum. So we are initializing a double sum equals to 0. It is initialized to 0. In order to get a lot of data from the user, not just one data, one input, but as large as the elements of our array, we need to use a for loop. In order to do that, we mention, okay, enter 5 numbers, and then we enter the loop I equals 0, and I, as long as I is lower than 5, we are going to iterate in this for loop again and again. And in each iteration, we are mentioning that, okay, now enter the ith element of the array. So for the first time, it's going to mention, okay, numbers 0, numbers 1, numbers 2, numbers 3, and finally numbers 4. So it is going to ask you enter 5 numbers, and then you're going to enter 5 numbers continuously, and you're separating them with the enter button. So the first number you are entering, it is going to be stored in the first element of the array number using this line. And the second number you are entering, it is going to be stored in the second element of the array number again here, because I is incremented one by one. So the first time I is 0, I enters, and then you're writing down the number 0 like this, and then I is incremented and it's now 1. Then what you're entering is stored to the second element of the array number. Then I is incremented one more time and it is 2. Now what you're entering is going to store in the third element, in the fourth element, and in the fifth element of the array number. So this is how the procedure would be when we are going to store some elements in the array. And finally, after each iteration, it is going to store the sum of these numbers. So this sum was initialized to be 0, but whatever you're entering, it is going to be added to sum. So the first time, let me just run the code once. It says enter 5 numbers. I would say 1, 2, 5, 7, 9. Okay, so we are not going to talk about this line yet. Let me just talk about the above line. Okay, now it's good. So it says enter 5 numbers. So I entered 1. 1 is now the element, the first element of the array. Now sum was originally equal to 0. We initialized it. Now 1 is added to sum. Okay, now sum is 1. Then it is asking me, so they are going to be done after another, okay, one after another. So this line is going to store, and then this line right after that is going to assign the number to sum. So then I'm entering the second element, which is 2, and it's going to be stored using this line. Like we are saying that, okay, now I equals 1. I equals 1 means that it's going to store the second element, and for the second element I'm entering 2. So for the second element I'm entering 2, and sum was already 1, and now 2 is added to that one, so the sum equals 3 now. And then I increased by another value for the next round that it enters the loop. Now I equals 2, and it is what I'm entering here, like number 5, is going to be assigned to the third element of array numbers. Okay, and 5 is going to be added to the already value of the sum, which is 3, because the first time was 1, the second time was 3. So sum initially it is 0, then it is 1, then it is 3, and then let me give you the details. I will write down the next steps, but when I equals 0, we are going to write down the first element of the number, and we mentioned that we have the first element equals 1. So 1 is stored as the first element of the array numbers, and 1, so initially sum equals 0, and 1 is added to sum. So now sum equals 1. Okay. Then I is incremented. Now I equals 1. When I equals 1, we are going to enter the second element, which is 2. So we enter 2, the second element of the array is stored, and then 2 is added to this 1, because sum equals sum plus numbers I here. So having this equation is equal to have sum plus equal numbers I. Okay, so they are the same equation, this equation and this equation. Okay, so sum was already 1, and we added the number 2 here, so sum in the next round, sum equals 3. Okay, then I equals 2, because in the next iteration I equals 2. When I equals 2, I entered number 5, which will be the third element of the array. So the third element of the array is stored as to be numbers 2. Okay, then sum was already 3. Now I'm adding sum equals 3 plus 5. So then sum becomes 8. So the next value of the sum will be 8. And then we are increasing the value of the I another time and another time until the end. So we are entering all elements, and each element is being accumulated in the sum one by one when they are added. And when everything is finished here, we are just printing the value of the average. How? We are initializing a double called average, and the sum is divided by the number of the elements of the array. In this case, it is 5. And then we are printing out the output. So based on our input here, like 1, 2, 5, 7, 9, let me just print also the value of sum here. Cout the value of sum equals, then we are printing sum here and del. So 1, 2, 5, 7, 9. Okay, let me just 1, 2, 5, 7, 9. Okay, so here we are seeing that the total value of sum is 24 and the average is 4.8. And if you would like to see the increment value of sum in each iteration, I can simply print it here. So we can see how sum is incremented. 1, 2, 5, 7, 9. 1, 2, 5, 7, 9. Okay, so now we are printing the incremental value. So initially Sum was 0. Then I added 1, so sum became 1, exactly as we wrote here. Sum became 1. Then we added 2 as the second element, so the sum became 3. Then we added 5, so the sum became 8, exactly like we calculated here. So basically, we are saying sum was 0 first. We added 1 value, it became 1. We added another 2 value, it became 3. We added another 5 value, it became 8. Another 7 value, it became 15. And another 9 value, it became 24. And then this number is divided by 5, the total number of elements in the array, and the average is calculated this way. So this exercise was very easy and straightforward. However, in order for you to get used to how arrays work and how we can read the elements of an array as the input values, and then how to work with them, how to print them, how to calculate the sum and average, it would be nice for you to do some coding exercises and start implementing these coding exercises that I have solved so far, so you can first master the basics of an array before we move to further exercises. Thank you for watching.